Things recovered castaways will never tell you, or at least most of them. They prefer to swallow their words and never relive those horrific moments in isolation. Or they fear they have fallen too deep into the depths of insanity to be taken seriously. Mental institutions will be just another kind of prison to them. My twin brother, I'll call him Joaquin for the sake of our privacy, is none of the aforementioned. At first, he didn't talk much and kept to himself, locked away in his room for hours on end. But the more accustomed he grew to being back home, the more he opened up. The words poured out of him in heavy streams of verbal vomit, and all I could do was listen. He was lost for almost 2 months down south in the Gulf of Mexico. He hasn't been the same since. Not that I expected him to be. He's told me some things that I'm still trying to process, and to be honest, don't fully understand. I guess that's why I'm posting this here. Because I need to purge this new knowledge out of my system. See if someone could give me some input. There's a strange fear gnawing at me that I can't quite shake off. But I'm unsure if that's Joaquin projecting his feelings. Us twins have that connection, you know? The kind you read about in stories. Before I dive into the unsettling part, let me tell you how he got lost. I'll probably end up doing more than one part, as my thoughts are all scattered and wild, so I need to get as much down as I can. Our father died not too long ago, maybe a couple months before Joaquin's disappearance. He left us a couple things, like the house we grew up in, money for our futures, and a small plane with propellers. Of course, the latter was located in his hometown in Mexico, a small place by the coast that almost no one knows about. I didn't care much for this inheritance, but it was the best news Joaquin had ever received. He had always dreamed of flying. We didn't have much money growing up, so we never traveled anywhere by plane. As kids, he always made me help him build planes out of cardboard boxes so we could play pilots in our backyard. Who was I to refuse that simple pleasure? In our senior year of high school, he decided to go to an aviation academy, but wasn't able to. We'd found out that he was colorblind. Anyhow, he was devastated. So when he found out, he was set on going to go check it out. I helped him save up for his ticket, since it was easier for just one of us to go, and we contacted some old relatives to help him out while he was over there. All was fine and dandy at first. He was so excited about the trip. That same childish glee I hadn't seen in a while returned. It was contagious. We talked over the phone every day, and some days he would send me pictures of crystal blue water and pristine white sands, of various selfies of him with the plane. It looked like paradise. And for a while I was a little envious. I was, until one day I didn't hear from him anymore. 2 days after he first disappeared, I was contacted by our family members with the unfortunate news. I flew over to Mexico only a couple days after. I don't want to bore you with any more details, And I also kind of want my hands to stop shaking with anticipation in sharing this new knowledge. So I'll just jump right into it. He said the cries of seagulls sometimes sounded like the laughter of children, and it reminded him of us when we were young. Some days, he thought he could hear the anguished wails of another man, but it eerily sounded a lot like him. Sometimes, late at night, when he was too tired to keep himself awake, he said he could feel something, stroking his legs almost soothingly. He couldn't describe the consistency of what touched him, though. When he cried, most times, he could hear someone or something crying with him. There were 2 other men in the small plane with him when the accident happened. They both died, but one morning, he woke up with something strange. A man, or something akin to a man, sat on his raft. He looked like an amalgam of the 2 men he had traveled with. You know how some pictures have 2 layers in different colors to look 3D? That's how he explained the look of this man. Like his companions were stacked. The man did not speak. It just stared. Joaquin said his tongue would dart out at random intervals like a snake's. When Joaquin thought he would go crazy with paranoia and fear about this man, he started screaming at him till he leapt back into the water and disappeared. It came back the next day. Its features deformed. Joaquin said he could see it reshaping, slowly, and that it was starting to look like him. He repeated the process from the prior day until it left again. It did not come back the next day. One night, he recalls being woken up by a very uneasy feeling. Upon looking down into the water, he said he thought he could see 2 big, bright eyes staring at him from the depths. There was an enormous black smudge in the water once. He assumed it was an oil leak, since there are petroleum stations in the Gulf. But upon closer inspection, he couldn't see the distinct shimmer of oil. Instead, he thought he could hear whispers, dozens of voices, all very faint. Trying to listen to what they were saying, he leaned in, his face mere inches above the water. And he saw 2 yellow, cat-like eyes suddenly open, staring right at him. These weren't the same eyes he had seen previously. Whatever the creature was, it smiled at him. That's all he's told me up to now. I'm itching to know more. It's more like a gnawing, but I try to make it seem like I'm not desperate. Yet I don't want to pressure him. It took him a while to open up on his own, and the last thing I want is for him to retreat back into his shell. I'll give it some time. Hopefully he tells me more soon, but in the meantime, I'm staying as far away as possible from the ocean.